Commander Jake Martinez rubbed his tired eyes as he looked at the screens in front of him. The Earth Defense Command station floating around Luna was quiet during the night shift. Most of the crew was asleep, and only essential systems kept running. Jake had been staring at patrol reports for 3 hours, and nothing interesting had happened in weeks. The command center was a large room, filled with glowing screens and soft humming sounds from the computers. Jake sat in the center chair, watching over everything. He was a tall man with dark hair and brown eyes, and he had been running night shifts for 2 years. He liked the quiet time when he could think and plan. Lisa Thompson sat at the communications desk nearby. She was a young woman with blonde hair who had joined the station 6 months ago. She was good at her job and paid attention to every signal that came through space. She wore headphones and watched her screens carefully, listening for any unusual sounds or messages. Jake was reading a report about asteroid mining operations when Lisa suddenly sat up straight. She touched her headphones and frowned. She pressed some buttons on her control panel and listened more carefully. After a few seconds, she turned around in her chair to look at Jake. "Commander, I'm getting something strange here," Lisa said, her voice showing excitement and worry. "It's not like anything I've heard before." Jake put down his report and walked over to Lisa's station. He could see strange patterns on her screen that were different from normal space noise. The signal was weak and kept breaking up, but it was definitely not natural. It looked like it might be coming from very far away. "What do you think it is?" Jake asked, looking at the strange patterns on the screen. "I don't know, sir, but it's definitely artificial. The pattern is too regular to be natural, and it's coming from outside our solar system," Lisa replied, adjusting her controls to try to make the signal clearer. Jake felt his heart beat faster. For years, humans had been listening for signals from other intelligent life in space, but they had never found anything real. Most scientists thought they were alone in the universe, or that other life forms were too far away to contact. "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked. Lisa worked on her controls for several minutes, trying different frequencies and filters. Slowly, the signal became a little clearer, but it was still hard to understand. It sounded like voices, but they were speaking in a language that no human had ever heard before. "I need Dr. Burke," Jake said. "Wake him up and get him down here right away." Dr. Alan Burke was the station's expert on languages and communication. He was a smart man who spoke 12 human languages and had studied how different cultures communicated. If anyone could figure out what the signal meant, it would be him. 15 minutes later, Dr. Burke arrived in the command center. He was a thin man with gray hair and glasses, and he looked tired but excited. Lisa played the signal for him several times while he listened carefully and took notes. "This is incredible," Dr. Burke said after listening for 10 minutes. "This is definitely an intelligent language. The structure is completely different from any human language, but I can see patterns. Give me some time, and I think I can start to understand it." Jake ordered the communications team to record everything and focus all their equipment on the signal. Word spread quickly through the station, and soon other officers were arriving to see what was happening. Dr. Burke worked for hours, using computers to analyze the patterns and sounds. As the hours passed, Dr. Burke began to understand small parts of the message. He found words that seemed to mean help and danger and urgent. The more he learned, the more worried he became. "Commander, you need to call Admiral Sullivan," Dr. Burke said, his face pale. "This is not just a greeting from space. This is a desperate call for help." Admiral Kate Sullivan was the head of Earth Defense Command. She was a strong woman with short red hair and green eyes who had been a military leader for 20 years. She arrived at the station 4 hours after Jake's call, bringing with her Captain Ryan Clark and intelligence officer Nina Rodriguez. Dr. Burke had made good progress by the time the Admiral arrived. He had figured out enough of the language to understand the basic message, and what he had learned was frightening. "Admiral, the beings sending this message call themselves the Zelani," Dr. Burke explained, showing his notes on a large screen. "They are asking for help because they are under attack by another species called the Krex Empire." Admiral Sullivan listened carefully as Dr. Burke continued his explanation. The Zelani described themselves as peaceful traders and scientists who had never fought a war. They had discovered Earth's radio signals decades ago and had been listening to human broadcasts, learning about human culture and technology. "They're losing badly," Dr. Burke continued. "The Krex have already destroyed several Zelani colonies, and they're now attacking the Zelani home world. The Zelani are hoping that humans might be advanced enough to help them fight back." Captain Clark, a serious man with black hair and blue eyes, studied the information Dr. Burke had translated. "What do we know about these Krex?" he asked Nina. Rodriguez, a smart woman with brown hair who worked in intelligence, had been analyzing the tactical data included in the message. "According to the Zelani, the Krex are aggressive and have powerful weapons. They use large ships to attack planets from space, and they don't seem interested in negotiation." Admiral Sullivan asked Dr. Burke to continue translating while she studied the star charts the Zelani had included in their message. The charts showed the location of Zelani space, which was about 17 light years from Earth. The charts also showed the movements of the Krex fleet as it attacked Zelani colonies. "There's more, Admiral," Dr. Burke said, his voice shaking slightly. "The final part of the message is a warning for us." Everyone in the command center became very quiet as Dr. Burke explained what he had found. The Zelani had detected Earth's radio signals, which meant that the Krex could also find Earth if they wanted to. After the Krex finished destroying the Zelani civilization, they planned to follow the radio signals back to Earth. "How long do we have?" Admiral Sullivan asked. Dr. Burke checked his translations again. "According to the Zelani, the Krex fleet moves slowly between star systems. If they finish with Zelani space in the next few weeks, it would take them about 6 months to reach Earth." The room was silent for a long moment as everyone understood what this meant. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but their first contact with alien life was a threat. An aggressive alien empire was planning to attack Earth, and they had only 6 months to prepare. Admiral Sullivan stood up and looked at everyone in the room. She was known for making quick decisions, and she had already decided what humanity needed to do. "We're not going to wait for them to come to us," she said firmly. "If the Krex want a fight, we'll give them one. But we'll fight it in Zelani space, not in our own backyard." Captain Clark looked surprised. "Admiral, are you suggesting we attack first?" "I'm suggesting we help the Zelani and protect ourselves at the same time," Admiral Sullivan replied. "If we wait for the Krex to come to Earth, we'll be fighting them. In our own solar system, that's too dangerous. We need to stop them before they get here." Nina Rodriguez nodded in agreement. "It makes sense strategically. If we can defeat the Krex fleet while it's attacking the Zelani, we save both civilizations." Admiral Sullivan turned to Dr. Burke. "Keep working on that translation. I want to know everything the Zelani can tell us about Krex tactics, weapons, and weaknesses." She then looked at Captain Clark. "Start preparing mobilization orders for the entire fleet. Every ship we have." Jake Martinez watched as the Admiral and her staff began planning humanity's first interstellar war. He thought about how quiet and peaceful the night shift had been just a few hours ago. Now, everything had changed. Humanity was about to launch their entire war fleet to help aliens they had never met fight an enemy they knew nothing about. Lisa Thompson continued monitoring the signal from the Zelani, hoping to receive more information that might help the human fleet. She thought about the brave Zalani who had sent the message, not knowing if anyone would hear it, or if anyone would care enough to help Dot in the next few hours. Orders would go out across the solar system. Every military base, every shipyard, and every training facility would receive the same message. Humanity was going to war, not for conquest or territory, but to protect innocent life and defend their own world from a threat they had never imagined. The age of human isolation was over, and the age of galactic warfare was about to begin. The message went out across the entire solar system at the speed of light. Every military base from Earth to the outer planets received the same urgent transmission. Priority Alpha mobilization. All leave was canceled. All training exercises were stopped, and every available ship was ordered to prepare for immediate deployment. Fleet Admiral Peter Hayes was eating breakfast in his quarters aboard the command station near Jupiter when his aide knocked on the door. Hayes was a big man with gray hair and a thick beard who had commanded fleets for 15 years. He had fought in 3 major conflicts and was known for his calm thinking during dangerous situations. "Sir, you have an urgent message from Earth." "Defense Command," the aide said, handing him a sealed data pad. Hayes read the message twice to make sure he understood it correctly. Humanity had made contact with aliens, and those aliens were under attack by another alien species that planned to attack Earth next. The entire human fleet was being mobilized for humanity's first interstellar military operation. Hayes finished his breakfast quickly and headed to the command center. As he walked through the corridors of the station, he could see crew members running to their posts and hear the sounds of ships preparing to launch. The entire base was suddenly full of activity and energy. Captain Sam Mitchell was conducting training exercises with his battleship UES Thunderbolt near Mars when the orders arrived. Mitchell was a young officer with brown hair and sharp eyes who had earned his command through skill and bravery. His ship was one of the newest and most powerful in the human fleet. "All stop," Mitchell ordered when he received the message. "Set course for Earth immediately. Maximum speed." The UES Thunderbolt was a massive ship, over 800 meters long, and armed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. It carried a crew of 1,200 people and enough supplies to fight for months without returning to base. The ship's powerful engines could push it through space faster than any previous human vessel. Colonel Amy Foster commanded the Marine unit aboard the Thunderbolt. She was a tough woman with black hair who had led ground forces in several conflicts. Her Marines were trained to fight in any environment, from airless moons to hostile planets. When she heard about the alien threat, she immediately began planning how to adapt her tactics for fighting non-human enemies. "We don't know anything about these Kreks," Foster told her officers during an emergency meeting. "We don't know how big they are, how they fight, or what their weaknesses might be. We need to be ready for anything." On Earth, President Victoria Stone called an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. Stone was an experienced leader who had guided humanity through several crises, but nothing had prepared her for first contact with hostile aliens. The meeting was held in a secure bunker beneath the United Nations building in New York. Representative Carlos Veda from Brazil argued that humanity should focus on defending Earth rather than attacking the aliens in space. "We don't know enough about this threat," he said. "We should build defenses around Earth and wait to see what happens." Admiral Sullivan, who had flown to Earth to attend the meeting, disagreed strongly. She stood up and activated a holographic display showing the star charts from the Zalani message. "If we wait for the Kreks to come to us, we'll be fighting them in our own solar system," she explained. "That means the battle could damage Earth, Luna, Mars, and all our colonies. It's much better to fight them far away from our home." The debate continued for 2 hours, but eventually the Security Council voted to support Admiral Sullivan's plan. Humanity would launch its entire fleet to help the Zalani and stop the Kreks before they could threaten Earth. Dr. Helen Park worked in her laboratory at the Xenobiology Institute in Geneva, studying the limited information about Kreks biology that had been included in this Zalani message. Park was a brilliant scientist who had spent her career studying how life might evolve on different worlds. Now she was trying to understand beings that had actually evolved on another world. The Kreks appear to come from a planet with lower gravity than Earth, she told her research team. Their bones are probably lighter and their muscles weaker, but they might be taller and more agile in low-gravity environments. Park's analysis suggested that humans might have physical advantages over the Kreks. Earth was a dangerous world with strong gravity, extreme weather, and many natural threats. Humans had evolved to be tough and adaptable. If the Kreks came from a gentler world, they might not be as physically strong as humans doubt. The fleet began gathering in Earth orbit within a week of the mobilization order. Ships arrived from bases throughout the solar system, battleships from Mars, cruisers from the asteroid belt, destroyers from the outer planets, and support vessels from Luna. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Captain Tony Richards commanded the carrier UES Eagle, which carried 60 atmospheric fighters adapted for space combat. Richards was an experienced pilot who had designed many of the tactics the fleet would use. His ship could launch fighters to attack enemy vessels or provide support for ground operations. These fighters were built to operate in Earth's atmosphere, Richards told his squadron leaders. They're fast, maneuverable, and tough. We don't know what kind of fighters the Kreks have, but I'm confident our pilots can handle anything they throw at us. The fleet also included specialized vessels like the medical ship UES Mercy, commanded by Dr. Rachel Ward. Ward was a skilled doctor who had treated casualties in several conflicts. Her ship was equipped with the most advanced medical equipment available and could treat both human and alien patients. Captain Ben Murphy commanded one of the fleet's supply ships. Murphy was an older officer who had spent 20 years keeping fleets supplied and operational. His ships carried spare parts, ammunition, food, and everything else the fleet would need for an extended campaign far from home. Chief Engineer Maria Santos worked day and night to modify the fleet's jump drives for the long journey to Zalani space. Santos was a genius with mechanical systems who had designed several innovations that made human ships faster and more reliable. The journey to Zalani space would require 17 light-year jumps, pushing human technology to its limits. We've never attempted jumps this long before, Santos told Admiral Hayes during a technical briefing. The drives can handle it, but we'll need to be very careful with our calculations. One mistake could scatter the fleet across several star systems. Admiral Hayes studied the fleet roster as ships continued to arrive in Earth orbit. 47 major warships, including 12 dreadnoughts like the Thunderbolt and 18 heavy cruisers. The fleet also included 30 smaller vessels, destroyers, frigates, scouts, and support ships. Nearly 50,000 people would be making the journey to Zalani space. The final preparations took 3 weeks. During that time, Dr. Burke continued, translating Zalani messages, providing more information about Kreks tactics and technology. The Zalani had been fighting the Kreks for several months and had learned valuable lessons about their enemy's strengths and weaknesses. Captain Lucy Evans commanded the scout ship UES Falcon, which would be one of the first ships to enter Zalani space. Evans was a careful and intelligent officer who specialized in reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. Her ship was fast and well-equipped with sensors, making it perfect for scouting enemy positions. We'll jump in first and assess The situation, Evans told Admiral Hayes. If the Kreks are still there, we'll map their positions and identify their ships. Then the main fleet can plan its attack. Lieutenant Commander Jeff Turner was one of the fighter pilots aboard the Eagle. Turner was young and aggressive, with excellent reflexes and a talent for aerial combat. He had trained extensively in Earth's dangerous atmosphere, where storms, mountains, and turbulence made flying extremely challenging. I've been flying in Earth's atmosphere since I was 18, Turner told his wingman. Compared to flying through a thunderstorm over the Pacific Ocean, space combat should be easy. Admiral Hayes held a final meeting with all ship commanders before the fleet departed. The meeting was conducted via holographic communication, with captains participating from their ships scattered across Earth orbit. Hayes looked at each of his officers and felt confident in their abilities. We're about to make history, Hayes told his commanders. We're not just fighting for Earth or for humanity. We're fighting for the principle that peaceful civilizations should be protected from aggressive empires. The Zelani asked for our help, and we're going to give it to them. Captain Mitchell asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What if we're outmatched? What if the Kreks fleet is too powerful for us to defeat? Admiral Hayes considered the question carefully before answering. Then we'll make them pay a heavy price for their victory. But I don't think that will happen. Humans have been fighting and surviving on a dangerous world for thousands of years. We've learned how to adapt, how to overcome obstacles, and how to protect what's important to us. I believe those qualities will serve us well in this fight. The fleet departed Earth, orbit on a clear morning when the sun was shining brightly on the blue and white planet below. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zelani system, like ghosts materializing from another dimension. 47 warships appeared in space within seconds of each other, their hulls gleaming in the light of the distant star. For a moment, everything was quiet as sensors began scanning the system ahead. Captain Lucy Evans, aboard the scout ship UECS Falcon, was the first to see what awaited them. Her ship's advanced sensors pierced through space and revealed a scene of destruction that made her stomach turn. The Zelani homeworld burned in its orbit around the star, with massive fires visible even from millions of kilometers away. Debris from destroyed ships and space stations floated in chaotic clouds around the planet. Admiral Hayes, this is Captain Evans, she transmitted to the flagship. You need to see this. The situation is worse than we expected. Admiral Hayes studied the tactical display as information flowed in from the Falcon sensors. 30 Kreks. Warships surrounded Zelani Prime, systematically bombarding the surface with energy weapons. Each Krek ship was enormous, at least twice the size of humanity's largest dreadnoughts. They moved slowly through space, like massive predators circling wounded prey. The Krek ships looked nothing like human vessels. Where human ships were angular and efficient, the Krek ships were curved and organic-looking, as if they had been grown, rather than built. Their dark hulls absorbed light, making them appear like holes cut out of space itself. Bright energy beams lanced out from weapons ports, striking the planet's surface and causing massive explosions. My God, Captain Mitchell whispered from the bridge of the Thunderbolt. They're not just attacking military targets. They're trying to destroy the entire planet. Admiral Hayes felt anger building in his chest as he watched the systematic destruction of an entire civilization. The Kreks weren't fighting a war. They were committing genocide. Any doubts he might have had about attacking them disappeared as he watched another energy beam strike what looked like a major city on the planet's surface. All ships, this is Admiral Hayes, he transmitted to the fleet. We are witnessing the murder of an entire species. That stops now. Battle stations, all ships. Prepare for immediate attack. The human fleet formed into 3 groups as they approached the inner system. Captain Mitchell led the main battle group, consisting of 12 dreadnoughts and 8 heavy cruisers. Their job was to engage the largest Krek ships in direct combat. Captain Richards commanded the second group, built around the carrier Eagle and its escort vessels. His fighters would provide support and attack smaller targets. Captain Steve Morgan led the third group, consisting of fast destroyers and frigates. His mission was to break through the Krek's formation and reach the planet's surface to evacuate any Zalani survivors. It was the most dangerous assignment, requiring his ships to get close to both the enemy fleet and the planet being bombarded. As the human ships accelerated toward battle, Lieutenant Commander Jeff Turner climbed into his fighter aboard the Eagle. He had trained for years for this moment, but he had never expected his first real combat to be against aliens. His fighter was a sleek machine built for Earth's dangerous atmosphere, with powerful engines and heavy armor that could survive extreme conditions. "All pilots, this is Captain Richards," came the voice over the communication system. "Remember your training. These Krek ships are big and slow. Use your speed and maneuverability to stay out of their weapon arcs. Hit them hard and get out before they can target you." The first exchange of fire revealed crucial differences between human and Krek's technology. The Krek's weapons were devastating. Energy beams that could destroy a human ship with a single hit, but they took several seconds to charge and fire. Human weapons were smaller, but fired much faster, allowing them to overwhelm enemy defenses with rapid bursts of projectiles and energy blasts. Captain Evans, still scouting ahead in the Falcon, reported her observations to the fleet. The Krek ships are heavily armored, but poorly compartmentalized. Their weapons are designed for bombarding planets, not fighting other warships. They're having trouble targeting our smaller, faster ships. The battle began when the Thunderbolt fired the first shots at extreme range. Captain Mitchell had positioned his ship to attack the largest Krek's vessel, which appeared to be the fleet. "Commander." Streams of projectiles and energy beams crossed space at nearly the speed of light, striking the alien ship's dark hull and causing bright explosions. The Krek ship returned fire with a massive energy beam that would have destroyed the Thunderbolt if it had connected. But Mitchell had anticipated the attack and ordered his ship to change course at the last second. The beam passed harmlessly through space, where the human ship had been moments before. "Direct hit on target 1, reported the Thunderbolt's weapons. "Officer, their shields are down, and we're seeing armor damage." Captain Richards launched his fighters as the main battle group engaged the Krek's fleet. 60 small, fast ships streamed out of the Eagle's launch bays and formed into attack squadrons. Jeff Turner led one squadron toward a Krek's cruiser that was firing on the planet's surface. The fighters moved through space like a swarm of angry insects, too small and fast for the Krek's weapons to target effectively. Turner's squadron attacked the cruiser from multiple directions, forcing its crew to choose which threats to engage. While some fighters drew the ship's fire, others slipped in close to attack vulnerable areas. "This is Turner," he reported as his squadron's weapons tore into the Krek's ship's hull. "These things are tough, but they're not built for close combat. Their armor is thick, but brittle. Once we get through it, they take a lot of damage." Meanwhile, Captain Morgan's destroyers were racing toward the planet through the chaos of the battle. His ships were fast and agile, designed to avoid enemy fire rather than absorb it. They weaved between the larger Krek ships, dodging energy beams and using their speed to avoid being trapped. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Chong commanded one of Morgan's destroyers, the UES Lightning. Chong was an aggressive officer who had earned her reputation by taking calculated risks that other commanders would not attempt. As her ship approached the planet, she saw an opportunity to strike a devastating blow against the enemy. "Captain Morgan, this is Chong," she transmitted. "I have a clear shot at the Krek's flagship, requesting permission to attack." Morgan looked at the tactical display and saw what Chong was proposing. The Krek's flagship was huge and powerful, but it was also isolated from the rest of their fleet. If Chong could get close enough, her ship's weapons might be able to cripple it. Permission granted, Chong, but make it fast and get out of there. Chong ordered her ship to maximum acceleration. As it dove toward the Krek's flagship, the massive alien vessel was over 2 kilometers long and bristled with weapons, but most of them were designed to fire at long range. Chong planned to get so close that the big guns could not target her ship. The lightning screamed through space. At incredible speed, dodging energy beams and missile attacks as it approached the flagship. When Chong's ship was less than a kilometer away, she ordered all weapons to fire at the same target, the area where the Krek ship's main reactor was located. According to sensor scans, the destroyer's weapons tore into the flagship's hull, punching through armor and causing secondary explosions deep inside the ship. Atmosphere and debris poured out of the holes as the Krek ship's main power systems failed. The flagship's weapons went silent, and it began to drift helplessly through space. Target neutralized, Chang reported as her ship raced away from the disabled flagship. The big one is out of the fight. The loss of their flagship threw the Krek's fleet into confusion. Without central coordination, the individual ships began fighting as separate units rather than as a coordinated force. This played directly into human strengths, as human commanders were trained to adapt quickly to changing situations. Colonel Amy Foster's Marines were preparing for their most unusual mission yet, boarding alien warships. Foster had studied the limited information about Krek's biology and had equipped her troops with sealed armor that could operate in alien atmospheres. Her Marines were tough soldiers who had trained in Earth's most dangerous environments. Remember, we don't know what we'll find inside these ships, Foster told her troops as they prepared to launch in assault shuttles. The gravity might be different, the atmosphere might be toxic, and the Kreks themselves might be unlike anything we've ever seen. Stay alert and stick together. The first Marine boarding party targeted a damaged Krek's cruiser that had lost power after being attacked by fighters. The assault shuttle attached itself to the alien ship's hull and cut through the armor with plasma torches. Marines in powered armor poured through the breach, ready for anything. What they found surprised everyone. The Kreks were tall, thin beings, with pale skin and large eyes adapted for low light conditions. They moved slowly and seemed to have trouble with the artificial gravity aboard their own ships. When they encountered the human Marines, they appeared shocked by how fast and strong the humans were. "Control, this is Foster," the colonel reported from inside the Krek ship. "The aliens are physically weaker than we expected. They seem to be adapted for low gravity and minimal physical stress. Our armor gives us a significant advantage in close combat." The first human landing shuttle touched down on Zilani Prime 12 hours after the last Krek ship had fled the system. Captain Steve Morgan watched from his destroyer as the shuttle descended through the smoky atmosphere toward what remained of the planet's largest city. The surface was scarred with craters and burning ruins, but sensors had detected life signs in underground shelters. Lieutenant Sandra Davis commanded the first landing party that stepped onto an alien world. Davis was a young officer with red hair and green eyes who had trained for first contact situations, though she had never expected to make contact during a rescue mission. She wore sealed armor that could protect her from alien diseases and toxic atmospheres. The landing site was a flat area that had once been a park in the center of the Zelani capital city. Now it was covered with rubble and ash from the Krek's bombardment. Davis and her team moved carefully through the debris, following their sensors toward the strongest life signs. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making each step feel strange and bouncy. "This is Davis," she reported to Captain Morgan. "We're on the surface and moving toward the shelter entrances." The air is breathable, but full of smoke and dust. We're keeping our suits sealed as a precaution. The first Zilani they encountered was hiding in the ruins of what looked like a library. Davis's team found him trapped under fallen debris, injured, but alive. When the Zilani saw the humans approaching, his large eyes grew even wider with surprise and something that might have been hope. The Zilani was unlike anything humans had imagined. He was tall and thin, almost 3 meters high, but weighing no more than an average human. His skin was pale blue-gray, and his limbs were long and graceful. His head was larger than a human's, with enormous dark eyes that seemed to take up half his face. When he spoke, his voice was musical and soft. Dr. Helen Park had insisted on joining the landing party to study alien biology firsthand. She immediately began examining the injured Zilani while Davis tried to communicate with him. The alien seemed to understand some human words, confirming that the Zilani had been listening to Earth's radio broadcasts for decades. "You came," the Zilani whispered in broken English. "We called, and you came from the Death World." Davis felt confused by the phrase Death World until Dr. Park explained what she was observing. The Zilani's bones were hollow like a bird's, and his muscles were designed for the planet's light gravity. His internal organs were arranged differently than a human's, and his entire body seemed fragile compared to Earth life. "Sandra, this being couldn't survive on Earth for more than a few minutes," Dr. Park said quietly. "The gravity would crush him, and our atmosphere would probably be toxic to his lungs. To him, Earth really would be a death world where nothing could live." More Zilani emerged from underground shelters as word spread that help had arrived. They moved slowly and carefully, still afraid that the Kreks might return. Davis was amazed at how graceful they were in their own environment, but she could see that they were completely helpless in any kind of physical conflict. The Zilani leader was an elderly female named Zara, who had been coordinating the survivors. She was even more fragile than the others, but her large eyes showed intelligence and dignity. When she met Davis, she spoke in careful English that she had learned from human radio broadcasts. "We thank you, humans from Earth," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We knew you lived on a dangerous world, but we did not understand how strong that would make you. The Kreks fear nothing, but they fled when your ships arrived." Davis helped Zara to the landing shuttle so she could be treated aboard the medical ship. As they walked slowly through the ruined city, Zara explained what had happened during the Kreks attack. The Zilani had no real weapons or military forces because they had never needed them. Their species had never fought a war in their entire history. Dr. Rachel Ward aboard the medical ship U.S. Mercy was amazed by Zilani physiology. Their entire species seemed to be adapted for a peaceful existence on a gentle world. They had no natural weapons, no aggressive instincts, and no ability to fight or defend themselves. They were scholars, artists, and scientists who had spent thousands of years building a beautiful civilization. "It's incredible," Dr. Ward told Captain Morgan during her medical report. "These beings are genuinely peaceful, not just culturally, but biologically. They don't have the physical or mental capacity for violence that humans do. They're like living works of art." Meanwhile, Colonel Foster's intelligence teams were examining the captured Krek ships and prisoners. What they discovered was both encouraging and disturbing. The Kreks were physically stronger than the Zilani, but still much weaker than humans. They came from a low-gravity world with a thin atmosphere, and they had never encountered serious resistance. Captain Alex Stone, the fleet's intelligence officer, studied the data collected from Krek's computers. Stone was a careful analyst who specialized in understanding enemy capabilities and intentions. What he found in the Krek's databases shocked him. "Admiral, the Kreks aren't just attacking the Zilani," Stone reported to Admiral Hayes. "They're part of a systematic campaign across this entire region of space. There are at least 5 different aggressive species conquering peaceful civilizations, and they don't seem to be competing with each other. The Krex databases contain star charts showing dozens of species under attack. Some civilizations had already been completely destroyed, while others were fighting hopeless defensive wars. All of the aggressive species seemed to come from harsh worlds, though none as dangerous as Earth. Engineer Maria Santos worked with Zelani technicians to understand their quantum communication network. The Zelani had been in contact with other peaceful species across the galaxy, but most of those communications had gone silent in recent years, as civilizations were conquered or destroyed. The pattern is clear, Santos told Admiral Hayes. Peaceful species develop on garden worlds with stable climates and few natural threats. They become advanced, but remain physically weak. Aggressive species develop on harsher worlds and use their strength to conquer the peaceful ones. Dr. Park made an important discovery while treating Zelani patients. The Zelani had detailed biological data on dozens of species in their computers, and almost all of them showed the same pattern. Species that evolved on dangerous worlds were strong and aggressive, while species from peaceful worlds were weak and gentle. Earth is an extreme example, Dr. Park explained to the command staff. Our planet has more natural threats than any world in the Zelani database. Extreme weather, dangerous animals, volcanic activity, earthquakes, and diseases that would kill most other species. Humans evolved to survive conditions that would be instantly fatal to most galactic life. Admiral Hayes realized that humanity's arrival in galactic affairs was more significant than anyone had imagined. For thousands of years, aggressive species had been conquering peaceful ones with no effective resistance. Now, a species from the most dangerous world any of them had encountered had entered the conflict. Captain Richards coordinated with Zelani survivors to establish a defensive perimeter around their planet. His fighters patrolled the system while construction crews began rebuilding damaged facilities. The Zelani were amazed at how quickly humans could work in dangerous conditions that would require them to use protective equipment. The breakthrough came when Dr. Alan Burke established communication with other species through the Zelani network. Messages began arriving from across the galaxy as news spread that someone had defeated a Krex fleet. The messages all carried the same themes: requests for help, offers of alliance, and expressions of hope. A message from a species called the Vorthan described their losing war against an empire called the Hegemony. Another message from the Kithra told of their planet being evacuated as the swarm approached. Dozens of civilizations were crying out for help, and they all saw humanity as their potential saviors. We're not just dealing with one enemy, Admiral Hayes told his senior staff during an emergency meeting. There's an entire ecosystem of aggressive empires preying on peaceful species. And apparently, we're the first species strong enough to fight back effectively. Captain Clark suggested that humanity should focus on defending Earth and leave the galactic conflicts to others. But Admiral Hayes disagreed. The Krex had been planning to attack Earth after destroying the Zelani. Other aggressive species would eventually do the same if they were not stopped. Dr. Ward established field hospitals on Zelani Prime, where human and alien medical teams worked together. She was amazed at how quickly the Zelani learned human medical techniques, even though their own medicine was far more advanced in some areas. The cooperation between the species was remarkable. Lieutenant Commander Turner returned from a reconnaissance mission with disturbing news. His squadron had detected Krex ships massing at a base 3 star systems away. The survivors of the fleet that had attacked Zelani Prime were gathering reinforcements for another attack. They're not giving up, Turner reported. If anything, they seem more determined to destroy us. Our victory here has made them see humans as a major threat. Admiral Hayes made the decision that would define humanity's future role in the galaxy. The human fleet would not return to Earth and wait for the next attack. 6 months after the first battle at Zelani Prime, Admiral Peter Hayes stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest space station orbiting the liberated world. The station was a joint project between human engineers and Zelani designers, combining the durability of human construction with the elegant efficiency of Zelani technology. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from 12 different species docked at the station's many ports. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity's arrival. Word of the human victory over the Kreks had spread across known space faster than anyone had expected. Species that had been hiding from aggressive empires for generations suddenly began reaching out, asking for protection and offering alliance. The human fleet had grown from 47 ships to over 200 as other species contributed vessels and technology. Ambassador Patricia Wright had arrived 3 months earlier with a team of diplomats to establish formal relations with alien species. Wright was an experienced negotiator who had resolved conflicts between human nations, but nothing had prepared her for the complexity of galactic politics. She now worked from an office aboard the station, coordinating between dozens of different governments and cultures. "The requests keep coming in," Wright told Admiral Hayes during their weekly briefing. 23 species have formally requested membership in what they're calling the Galactic Defense Initiative. Another 40 species have asked for protection agreements. Everyone wants humanity to defend them. The success at Zelani Prime had led to more battles across the region. Captain Sam Mitchell, now promoted to admiral, commanded a task force that had liberated 4 star systems from Krek's occupation. Captain Ryan Clark led diplomatic missions to contact threatened species and coordinate defensive strategies. Each victory brought more species into the growing alliance. Dr. Helen Park had established the Xenobiology Research Center on the station, where scientists from multiple species worked together to understand the biological differences that had shaped galactic history. Her research had confirmed humanity's unique position as the only known species to evolve on an extreme death world. "The pattern is consistent across all known life," Dr. Park explained to a gathering of alien scientists. "Species that develop on harsh worlds become physically strong, but often remain small in population. Species that develop on garden worlds become numerous and advanced, but physically weak. Earth produced the perfect combination, a large population that is also extremely hardy." Captain Lucy Evans had been promoted to admiral and now commanded the reconnaissance division that explored unknown regions of space. Her ships had made contact with dozens of new species, most of whom were either peaceful civilizations under threat or aggressive empires expanding their territory. The galaxy, it seemed, was divided between predators and prey. The most significant discovery came when Commander Lisa Chang returned from a deep space mission with intelligence about the broader galactic situation. Chang had spent 2 months infiltrating Krek's territory and gathering information about their allies and enemies. What she found changed everything. "Admiral, we're not dealing with random conflicts," Chang reported during a classified briefing. "There's a pattern to these aggressive empires. They're all being driven by something they call the Devourer fleets. According to Krek's intelligence, these Devourers come from outside the galaxy and consume entire star systems." The revelation explained why so many aggressive species were expanding rapidly. They were not just seeking conquest. They were fleeing from something even more dangerous. The Kreks, the Hegemony, the Swarm, and other aggressive empires were all refugees from regions of space that had been consumed by the mysterious DEVOURERS. Admiral Hayes called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Defense Initiative leadership. Representatives from 23 species gathered aboard the station to discuss this new threat. The meeting was conducted through advanced translation systems that the Zelani had developed using human computer technology. Captain Steve Morgan, who now commanded the Rescue and Evacuation Division, presented data on refugee movements across the galaxy. Millions of beings from hundreds of species were fleeing toward the galactic core, ahead of an expanding wave of destruction. The aggressive empires were trying to secure territory for their own populations by displacing peaceful species. Where? Looking at the largest migration in galactic history, Morgan explained. Entire sectors of space have been abandoned as species flee the Devourers. The aggressive empires are the advance guard of this refugee wave. Dr. Ellenberg had been working with alien linguists to translate captured communications from the outer galaxy. The messages painted a terrifying picture of vast fleets of unknown ships that arrived without warning, consumed everything in star systems, and moved on to the next target. No one knew where the Devourers came from or what they wanted. The descriptions are consistent across multiple species, Burke reported. Ships the size of moons, technology that can dismantle planets, and no apparent interest in communication or negotiation. They simply arrive, consume, and move on. President Victoria Stone arrived at the station for the first Galactic Council session, held in the station's largest conference room. Representatives from over 50 species attended in person or through holographic projection. The meeting would determine how the galaxy would respond to the Devourer threat. Captain Tony Richards, now commanding the Carrier Division, presented military assessments of the known aggressive empires. His analysis showed that these empires were not inherently evil, but were desperate refugees trying to secure survival for their species. This changed how humanity approached the conflicts. We can't just fight these empires, Richards explained. We need to find ways to accommodate their refugee populations while protecting the peaceful species they're displacing. It's a logistics problem as much as a military one. The solution came from an unexpected source. Zara, the elderly Zelani leader, suggested using humanity's unique position to broker peace between the aggressive and peaceful species. Since humans were strong enough to defeat any of the aggressive empires, but had no interest in conquest, they could serve as neutral mediators. Admiral Hayes proposed the creation of safe haven zones throughout the galaxy, defended by human forces, but governed by joint councils of all species. Refugee populations from the outer galaxy could be settled in these zones without displacing existing civilizations. It was an ambitious plan that would require unprecedented cooperation. Engineer Maria Santos worked with teams from multiple species to design the infrastructure needed for the Safe Haven project. Human construction techniques could build habitats quickly and efficiently, while alien technologies could provide life support for species with different biological needs. The first prototype habitat was under construction in the Zelani system. Colonel Amy Foster's Marines had evolved into a truly multi-species force. Human soldiers trained alien recruits in combat techniques, while aliens taught humans about their unique abilities and technologies. Foster was amazed at how quickly different species learned to work together when they had a common purpose. The first major test came when a Krex diplomatic mission arrived at the station under a flag of truce. The Krex commander was a tall, pale being named Vex, who had led several attacks on peaceful species. But when he met with Admiral Hayes, his message was not about conquest, but about survival. "Our homeworld is gone," Vex told the assembled council through a translator. "The Devourers consumed our entire system 6 months ago. We have 3 million refugees aboard our ships with nowhere to go. We attacked other species because we were desperate, not because we wanted to conquer." Admiral Hayes offered the Krex, the first settlement in a safe haven zone, but with conditions. They would have to end their attacks on peaceful species, contribute to the defense of the zone, and accept joint governance with other species. After long deliberation, Vex accepted. The terms Dr. Rachel Ward established medical centers throughout the growing Alliance territory, treating refugees from dozens of species. Her teams had learned to work with alien biology and had developed treatments that could help beings from different worlds. The cooperation between human and alien medical teams had advanced both human and galactic medicine by centuries. Captain Jeff Turner, now commanding his own squadron, led the first joint military exercise between human and alien forces. Fighters from 6 different species practiced coordinated attacks against simulated Devourer fleets. The exercise revealed both the potential and the challenges of multi-species military cooperation. The breakthrough came when Captain Alex Stone's intelligence teams intercepted communications from the outer galaxy. A coalition of species in the Galactic Rim had discovered a way to fight the Devourers effectively. A key was coordinated attacks using specific frequency weapons that could disrupt Devourer technology. "They're not invincible," Stone reported to Admiral Hayes. "The Rim Coalition has stopped 3 Devourer fleets using coordinated quantum frequency attacks. But they need massive industrial capacity to build enough weapons, and they need strong defenders to hold the line while the weapons are constructed." Admiral Hayes realized that humanity had found its true purpose in the galaxy,